If you could be anywhere right now in the world, where would you choose? This is a question that I feel like, especially since after last year we decided to sell our home and travel the world, I get asked more than anything else, like more than recipes, more than workout tips. Where should I go and how do I even get started? Do I go by myself? Do I join a group? Is it safe? Too old? What if I don't know anyone? What if I get lonely? And here's what I've learned after traveling, not just for personal reasons, but for work, as a journalist, as a television personality, and now someone who's intentionally designing the next chapter of my midlife. And if you're in the same boat too, this is an episode that you're going to want to stay tuned for because I don't know about you, but travel, just like the idea of going to the airport, gets my heart racing in the best possible way. I love everything about traveling. I love accumulating the passport stamps. I love trying all the new foods. I love, and this is going to sound weird, not always understanding everything that I'm hearing around me. I kind of like just being a stranger in a way, observing and then integrating from the outside in. I don't like to be a tourist, but I like to be a visitor. And that makes the perfect kind of trip for me. But for you, it might be something different. And there's only one kind of right trip. It's the right trip for the person that you're becoming and that you want to be. Now, let's talk about why midlife is actually the best time to travel. This is where you know you can finally take time for yourself. You know yourself. You're less interested in checking the boxes, and you have more confidence in saying yes and saying no. So you can discern what you like and what you don't like. You can focus on experiences more than maybe souvenirs. Your kids, if you have them, are most likely grown and they're probably doing their own thing. They might want to travel with you, but maybe not. So that gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of timing, which can have a huge impact on savings and the size of the crowds. And your career is probably shifting and you're asking bigger questions. You're starting to ask, well, if I don't do it now, then when? And I am still in pretty good shape. I don't know what's going to happen in 10 years, but if I don't go now, then am I going to regret that decision? So, I think in your 20s you travel to just see what's out there, and in midlife you travel to rediscover a part of yourself, maybe a part of yourself that you let go of. And let me tell you what, it's less about FOMO and more about doing it for you. We're not in fear of missing out on someone else's dream. It's more about filling our own cup and finding joy in that. So, obviously, there's a ton of different ways to travel. There's adventure travel, there's cultural travel, there's culinary travel. There are treks that you can do that are guided. There are retreats that you can go on. You could go on a small group trip around the world. It's really about what you are open to. For this particular part of this episode, I want to talk a little bit about solo travel. In a few episodes ago, I interviewed Renee Landers and we talked a bit about her solo travel as a woman in her 70s now. She decided to start doing more solo travel in the past few years and it's really changed a lot for her. And I agree. I feel like every woman should take at least one solo trip. And there are a lot of reasons for that. It's about building confidence, it's about freedom and flexibility in your schedule. You don't have to answer to anyone else. You can explore on your own terms, on your own time schedule. You can learn how to listen to yourself more and the pace of life that you want to go at. You can eat where you want. You can rest without guilt. You don't have to be again on someone else's timetable, especially if you are used to traveling with people who like to fill every single moment of every single day where you feel like you need a vacation from your vacation. This is a different type of speed and vibe. And it's a way to meet people naturally and I think build resilience because when you're just out there trying to figure things out, you will learn how to be resilient, how to be more in tune and aware with your surroundings because you've got to be a little bit more alert, I think, than you would be if you were traveling with other people. And let's just talk honestly about facing our fears. I mean, being on your own does maybe kind of open up a little side of you that might be a little bit more fearful. But what a great way to tackle those, dragons and think about how you can take care of yourself. And the truth is, I feel like sometimes when you travel solo, the world opens up for you in the most beautiful ways that you don't always get when you're traveling with other people. So, if this is the first time you've ever considered solo travel, I'm sure you're thinking, well, what about safety? And where do I go? And what if I don't speak the language and all those things? Well, I think you can start small. And you can go back and listen to episode 160, my interview with Renee, and listen to that episode and hear what we had to talk about. But I think you can start small. I just went on a solo trip. It was actually an organized retreat, but I went by myself. I didn't know anybody. I shared a room with somebody that I didn't know. I got in my car and I drove 2.5 hours. So I didn't have to get on a plane. It was just for the weekend, and it was a great way to just dip my toes in the water of solo travel. I have traveled internationally by myself, but I haven't done it in many, many years. So this was a great way for me to kind of dip my toes back into it as I get prepared to potentially be doing more solo travel internationally. But the point being, design it for you the way it's comfortable for you. And hey, if you're ready to just go, grab your passport and dive in, go for it. We have so many more resources now that make planning a trip infinitely easier than before the internet and certainly before mobile phones. But you can get self guided trips. You can, find an itinerary. You can even use chat to help you design an itinerary. And certainly there's so many review sites and ways to look at organizing and creating an itinerary. And of course, there's YouTube. I love watching YouTube's, itinerary videos, people that have gone there before, and you get their input, you get their ideas. And I've used a lot of those videos to help with designing my own trips. So, solo travel can be great. And I think like I said, every woman should really take at least one. I think you will find out so much about yourself. And instead of trying to fill the silence with things, let it be a time to give back to yourself. Let it be a time where you pack a book with you and you read, in a beautiful park. You grab a table at a restaurant. Maybe it's at the bar or maybe it's your own table. And instead of defaulting to looking at your phone, maybe it's an opportunity to write a letter or to write in your journal. Maybe you decide to travel somewhere on your own and do what I did and then join a retreat that's organized. So, lots of different ways to do that, but don't feel like you have to fill every single moment with noise. Sometimes just walking through a park or I mean, I've traveled with other people where I've taken off for an hour or two on my own to explore because I love that time. And I'll put my headphones on, I'll listen to some inspirational music, and I'll just walk. And that's one of my favorite things to do, and maybe you're the same way. So, the second big category of travel is what's gaining a lot of popularity right now are self guided adventures. And there are companies out there that organize these for you. Max Adventure is the perfect example of one. And I took one of their trips in April, and it was awesome. I absolutely loved it. I did it with my husband. Max Adventure organized everything. We went to Portugal and we got to explore so many different parts of Portugal. It was awesome. So it was mainly based around Lisbon, but we got to see little towns that we may not have really picked to go to, like Cascais, which is kind of think of it as like the Newport Beach of Lisbon, where people, or maybe like the Malibu, where people that are from Lisbon proper, travel outside of the city and go to the sea where it's a little bit fancier. Really nice high end restaurants, beautiful, walking trails, lots of things to do outside. I really, really enjoyed it. But then we also had days where we were hiking through forests, which were some of my favorite days. Imagine walking through, kilometers of just forest, quiet. It was the most beautiful walking meditation I think I've ever done because most days we only encountered a handful of people in the forest. So you become acutely in tune with the rustling of leaves and hearing little animals scurry around and, you know, just walking into historic monuments and landmarks. And we happened to go on one day where we entered into a beautiful monastery in the middle of the forest. I mean, it was so magical. All the things that you could just picture in your mind right now. And one day we had a gorgeous walk to this lighthouse, which is kind of like at one of the furthest, let me say this right, westernmost points in all of Europe. So the views were absolutely epic. Think wildflowers everywhere. You're walking along these dramatic cliffs that jut down right into the ocean. And these are the types of things that, as a traveler, not a tourist, but as a traveler, these are not crowded touristy places that you would necessarily find on your own. And the great thing about Max Adventure is they drop you off, so all of the transportation is organized for you. They pick you up from the airport or the train station and take you to your location. And then every day they drop you off at the start of your hike, or they give you the app which you can use every single day to help navigate where you're going. So everything is super intuitive because you've got the app, you've got all the details, and you have a person in country that helps you along the way. So you're never really like alone. And I just adored it. We stayed at some of the most magical, oh my gosh, one of the hotels, uh, Saisho. It was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. And my husband, every once in a while, say, like, let's go back to Saisho. One of the coolest, just artistic locations. It was so eclectic, but so like beautifully done. And the views were just so epic from your room. You see the ocean. Oh my gosh, I get teary-eyed thinking about it. It was just so gorgeous. But it was nice to just be able to open an app and know where you were going and just allow you to focus on enjoying your time. Our luggage was transferred. We were taken from location to location. Many of our meals were already pre-planned, but it gave us some flexibility to have some meals at places that we found, which we always love to do in country. And so there was independence and certainly security, but the benefit of a built in itinerary, local, really good recommendations. I loved every single hotel that we went to, and they were already vetted. So you don't end up with a disaster when you get to town because not always, reviews aren't always like super reliable. And we even had some flexibility within our itinerary. For example, we did one day of hiking where we wanted to take a different route. So we ended up taking a slightly different route and we ended up at the beach, at this gorgeous beach with this natural rock formation and arch formation that was just mind-blowingly gorgeous. And our driver came and picked us up from there instead of the original location. So they give you that flexibility. And there are other companies out there that do the same thing. I just happened to do this one with Max Adventure, and it was really wonderful. We enjoyed it so, so much. But I would look into that as another option. There are also tour companies like Grasshopper Adventures, and they do destinations all over the world where you can bike, and they have self guided bike tours, and they also have organized small group travel tours. So if you feel like that might be an option that you want to look into, they are worth looking at as well. They have a lot of really cool destinations all around the world. But I say this gives you a nice balance of things where you kind of feel like you're on your own. You're not beholden to somebody else's schedule because if it's a 3 hour self guided tour for the day, you can start and stop, or you could start a little later one day, or you could start a little earlier and end earlier one day. Like it gives you that kind of flexibility to take your detours, talk to the locals, duck into a bookstore, or get a great coffee, which is so inexpensive throughout most of Europe and the world, by the way, not in the United States, apparently. And, have that little extended coffee break. So that kind of flexibility is really nice. And I can't wait to go back and do another one. To be honest, I'm just like chomping at the bit right now. So I mentioned this is the segue to the next category, which I mentioned a little bit, but that's small group travel. So let me say that again because I kind of got too excited and said it weird. Small group travel. And I think this is where community building really, really shines because let's face it, in midlife, it becomes more challenging. Maybe your friend group doesn't live where you live, or you have shifted in life and you're looking for a new friend group, or you're just trying to find people who are maybe more adventurous than your current friend group. I don't know. You may have a myriad of reasons, but I think at this time of life, we're really craving connection more than ever. Need I, remind you about the pandemic in 2020 and what that did for us? I think what we really found is that the two biggest assets that we have are our health and our community. And we need that as human beings. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity to find your people, to share a meal, to engage in a story together, to experience something together, to have that feeling of security without being just part of the masses. You may love to do cruise ships and you don't mind being part of a big, 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 thousands of people on a ship with you. Or you may be more like me, where you want to be in a smaller group, or you may like both. I think that's what's nice about small group travel is you can be within a group, even if it's within a larger community. So the great aspects of this are, you don't have to worry about the logistics; they're doing it for you. You have the opportunity to make new lifelong friends, which I think is such a big bonus. A lot of these small group travels give you the chance to interact with locals, which, let's face it, if you're going to a country and you're just staying at a resort and you're never leaving and you're just eating there and you're doing the activities there, I mean, why even pay for the trip? Sometimes I think, like, why did I even go there? I could have done that in my own backyard. This gives you a chance to interact with the locals and learn more about local culture, talk about the antidote to ignorance and racism. I mean, I'm going to just say it. The more you travel, the more the world becomes smaller in the best way possible, because you realize that people that maybe that don't look like you, or don't have the same customs as you, or don't eat the same foods as you do, have now enlightened you to a new way of living that enhances your life. And these are the types of experiences that AI can't buy, that you just can't duplicate unless you're there in real life, IRL, as the kids say. So take the trip and learn from the locals and be plugged into a community. Now, I'll also say that small groups often allow access to experiences that larger tours just can't offer, like cooking with local families. About to do an experience in Morocco where I'm going to get to cook with a local Moroccan family. I mean, how cool is that to be able to experience that with them, where, that might not be accessible if you're not doing it with a group that has an organized trip. Or maybe you get to access a landmark at a non peak time because the tour operator has VIP access. So I took a small group with my family to Egypt a couple of years ago, and my cousin is the tour operator. He has been a tour guide in Egypt for over 30 years, and everybody knows him. He has access to things that no one has access to. So it's like you're a VIP because you're part of this tour. And that's another huge perk of being able to go with people who really know the country. And let me say that again, people who really know the country and know the ins and outs. Because I will say there are a lot of influencers that are doing organized tours now that have never been to the country. They're just kind of the figurehead, but they don't really know anything about the country. So when you're picking, do your research, do your due diligence, and decide, like, has this person traveled there before? Do they know the ins and outs? Do they speak the language, or at least know how to communicate a little bit? Because I think that's going to give you a certain level of comfort and confidence in your decision. And I love going on these like unexpected tours where you're going to unexpected places off the beaten path, home hosted meals, going to a market that nobody really knows about, or trying a local food that you didn't read about in the guidebook, but the locals know all about it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a country and I will ask a local, where do you go? Where do you like to eat? Or what's the dish that you would pick? Or I look to see what other people are eating. And that's a benefit of small group travel, is they've already done that work for you. But I think one of the biggest perks is you just get to sit back and relax and be in community with each other. And man, I more and more am loving this type of travel. This to me, like when you're younger, I think you've got big friends groups and you like to travel in groups, but that doesn't always work out when you get to be in midlife. People have all their different things that they're doing, or they've got family stuff, or they've got work stuff, and maybe they're not as adventurous as you are, but there are other people who will be. And you can be as adventurous or as tame as you want to be. I'm going to be leading a group to Egypt. And let me tell you what, that's going to be the time of your life. That's going to be a non like duplicatable trip because, girl, I'm Egyptian. I got my family, I got my cousin. We know how to do it right. But I've also been to Costa Rica almost a dozen times. So when I take a group to Costa Rica, I'm going to tell you where to go and how to do it right and what to order and all the things. So choosing is important, which leads me to the next part of this episode. How do you choose the right trip? I would literally make this checklist. And if you want this checklist, make sure you head to therealdish.com and opt into our newsletter. If you get the newsletter, The Real Dish, which we send out once a week, just once a week, you will get this travel checklist sent to you. And this is going to help you make your decision. But just some of the things that I would ask myself is, what is my intention for this trip? What do I really want to do? Am I looking for adventure? Am I looking for healing? Do I want to do more of a yoga slash introspective type of trip? Am I going for the food? Let's be honest. Like food and drink, that's a huge part of travel for pretty much everybody. But are you more looking for culinary expansion? Do you want to eat at the best restaurants? Or are you more of a farm to table kind of person? So, what is the food looking like for you? Or do you have dietary restrictions where you just have to be really restricted on what you eat? That's going to make a big difference on the type of trip you pick. What about culture? Is culture a big part of what you're looking for? How about faith? Are you looking to do a pilgrimage? We did a pilgrimage earlier this year. We did the Camino de Santiago, and we did it from northern Portugal, and we walked into Santiago, and that was a little over 100 kilometers. Ended up being about 115, 120 kilometers. And we did that over 5 days. And the end point is the Cathedral of Santiago, where St. James relics are held. And it is a big Catholic slash Christian pilgrimage. A lot of people do it for non religious reasons, but for us, it was definitely a faith based mission. And you may have other pilgrimages that you're interested in doing. So, is it centered around faith? Are you looking for a fitness slash, hiking adventure type of thing where you're super active or you're cycling? That's going to make an impact on your decision as well. So, lots of different things to ask yourself. Now, I would also ask, how much structure do you want? Do you want everything planned? Do you want a lot of flexibility? Do you want to have complete freedom? What is the input that you want to have on this agenda and itinerary? Because that will make a difference. You'll all also want to ask, am I looking for luxury, or am I more about like eco-friendly slash glamping slash, am I okay with staying in a ecosphere? We stayed in an ecosphere a few times in Costa Rica, and we mixed that in with other types of stays. And we found that to be one of our favorite things. We stayed at one. Oh my gosh, it was so gorgeous. Okay, it was really cute. It was like elevated glamping because it's indoors, but you're in this sphere, and right outside our door was our own private waterfall. I mean, mind blowingly beautiful. So if you're okay with something like that, that's going to also affect the cost. So are you that kind of person, or are you like 5 star all the way? That's obviously going to make a difference in how you structure your getaway. Now, are you an experienced traveler, or are you worried about that? Do you have a passport? Is your passport full and now you're on your third passport because you filled all the stamps? Like all of those things will make a difference. If you are well traveled, I'm going to say pretty much 10 out of 10, you're not going to want a normal itinerary. I mean, if you are super well traveled, you probably are going to want to go off the beaten path. And the idea of going to see all of the super, famous landmarks that every city is well known for might not be your cup of tea. So let's think about that. And that's a no brainer. But are you worried about the language? I'm going to say, if you are worried about language, don't be worried about language. I think as long as you are open and friendly and you learn a few phrases in the language of the country you are going to visit, I would say you don't have to worry about being fluent. You are never going to get into a position where you are so jammed up with today's technology that I think it puts you, I mean, I should never say never, but I'm going to say in 99.99999 situations, you have so many tools in your hand, and that's your mobile phone. You have active translators. I'm just saying, don't let that stop you. But certainly it's a consideration. Now, what about your budget? What about your budget? Okay. Are we going budget gourmet or are we doing this 5 star all the way? Like, sign me up for all the perks and the suite upgrade. So, if you're that kind of person, then like, shoot, sky's the limit, right? But if you're conscientious about how you're spending, you want to get the most for your dollar. And I would do some price comparisons. Make sure that you let your browser do some work for you. Let's look into seeing, what does this option offer me? Um, Make sure that you're looking at travel because a lot of the package group tours don't include flights. So make sure you're looking. I like to use Google to look up flights myself, but make sure you're looking at that as part of your budget. And are there any restrictions? Are there visa fees? What does the transportation look like? Are you going to a city that maybe is a little bit more expensive to get into? Maybe you want to look at other options. There could be an alternate airport that gets you into a city where you could just take a quick train ride, for example, or a bus or a Uber, whatever. So those are all things to take into consideration. By the way, just your sis telling you because I've traveled a lot, make sure your passport has at least 6 months left on it because most countries will not allow you in if your passport's going to expire in less than 6 months. So just something to keep in mind. I mentioned this already, but make sure you know who's leading it. Is it somebody that you are familiar with? Who is the tour operator? Make sure that there's transparency and you know what you're signing up for. Research them, check out the reviews, maybe even reach out to people who have been on the trip and ask them what their experience has been like. Do they know the culture? What is the group size? If you want to be in a small group, but somebody's idea of a small group is 30 people and your idea of a small group is more like 12 to 14, you want to know that in advance. And what's their philosophy on travel? If you are with a group or you're doing self guided and you're in a place where maybe they lean more towards, I don't know, I'm just going to throw this out there. Maybe they're more into alternative kind of things and you're more mainstream, or maybe the type of tour is more leaning towards a certain faith and maybe you are not leaning towards that faith, or vice versa. Maybe you really want to go on a yoga retreat, but you have a faith element to you, and maybe that retreat doesn't fit your values. I'm just saying, throwing out simple examples, but you get the idea. Make sure you understand what is involved with your choice. And certainly, if you're going to do solo travel, make sure you look at travel restrictions, travel call outs. What I'm trying to say, the US government has their website, and I'll put it in the show notes, where you can check and see if the travel destination that you're looking to go to is on the safe list or the not safe list. And you can kind of take that with a grain of salt. So, this is not a sales pitch, but I'm just going to say it. I have a vision, and next year I am going to be leading a number of different transformation focused. I'm not going to call them vacations. I'm going to call them journeys because these journeys are going to be specifically designed to unlock a part of you that maybe you stuffed down decades ago, or maybe you just recently unlocked, or maybe you're trying to figure out. Sure, we're going to have amazing food. There always will be amazing food when you're with me. Certainly, culture will be part of it. Certainly, movement will be part of it. And certainly, there will be meaning. And maybe most importantly, there will be connection and learning and curiosity explored, because those are all things that I value so much in this phase of life. I don't want you to just see a country like Egypt. I want you to understand it. I want you to meet people. I want you to eat in people's homes. I want you to walk where history happened, where Cleopatra ruled basically the world, the Mediterranean, that was the world, and where other strong women have walked in. walk the paths before us in very, very incredible shoes. And I want you to come home changed and transformed. And then I want you to be able to share that with other people because these are the things that you will never learn by reading a guidebook. They're the things that you have to explore and embed into your DNA. I don't know anyone with half a sense of adventure and self awareness that's gone somewhere and come back and not been affected. And I've I just don't know for me in this phase of life if there's anything that brings me more anticipation, excitement, and joy other than spending it with my family than doing travel and doing travel well. So, if you're interested in these trips or anything upcoming, again, make sure you visit therealdish.com and sign up for our newsletter. You'll be the first person to know about these trips. They're going to be very curated, very small group. I'm talking like maximum 18 people, and the spots are going to go like hotcakes. The last two tours that I did, they were all the spots were filled within 5 hours. So make sure that you sign up so you're the first to know, and make sure you follow me at Mareya Eats, Mareya Eats, and the Real Dish Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. So I hope this has helped you figure out maybe where you should go next. And if you've been thinking like, I really need a getaway, I need a not just a vacation, but I want a journey, let this be your sign. Because sometimes it's not the destination that changes your life. It's what happens when you come back after you've marinated in all those incredible experiences. And that, my friends, is what you get to unlock in midlife in the most powerful way. Thanks for being here, and I can't wait to see you next week.